Hi, my name's Simon Baker. I'm the Executive Chairman of the Online Marketplaces Group. Mike van der Heijden is the CEO of Portal.Ventures. I recently chatted with him about how they are working with portals, classified sites, and marketplaces around the world to drive higher volumes of organic SEO traffic. We started off by talking about what they do and how they do it.
We help marketplaces grow their organic search traffic in a scalable manner without having them to rely then on paid acquisition channels.
Okay, and how do you physically do that? Is it landing pages? Is it better tagging, meta tags, etc.? Or is it a combination of many different things?
We actually find it's quite interesting. We actually find that most of the marketplaces, they have a general understanding of, and especially in classifieds, everyone's got the locations, the property types, and or automotive types down path, and that behavior was very well, the benchmark now. What we're now seeing is that as user behavior changes, as people are starting to search more specific, we start finding that people look for more permutations. So for example, in Australia, we've had for a very long time, people search for a location and a property type. Then they started searching more specific around bedrooms and amenities. But now they're starting to look at, what landmarks do I want to live nearby? What price is available out there? Look, I want an apartment in the Sydney CBD near the Sydney Opera House for under $500,000. Good luck. So we see a massive change in behavior, and not just in real estate. We see it across all of the marketplaces that we work with, whether it's automotive, whether it's consumer behavior in terms of salons, and whether it's mechanics. The most effective strategies are basically to understand what your market wants and deliver that, which unfortunately a lot in the classified sites haven't been able to deliver well on that. They've been able to deliver on the core, which is location, property types, and some permutations around that. But we actually help them understand the market a bit better.
So is this going after the long tail search?
Yes.
Versus the head tail
Absolutely.
search? Okay.
Absolutely.
Right. And this is about truly understanding the types of searches that people are doing within their market, and then really presenting the content on the marketplace to that market that answers those types of questions.
Yeah, spot on. Absolutely spot on. And we look at that from a various ways. Like it's all fair to have this long tail strategy, but it's got to also match up with inventory levels. So we kind of overlay the two to understand, well, where are your strengths? Where are your weaknesses? And where's your competition strength and weaknesses? And where can we quickly gain some grounds in terms of search volume and traffic?
And if we were to do a sort of a before and after snapshot for a typical customer of yours, what sort of increase do you tend to see in the amount of organic traffic that they can attract?
Sure. So it is a little bit dependent. I'll take a step back. We've obviously got some of the more mature market leaders that we work with, in which case we still manage to maintain a 50 to 60% increase in organic traffic in some cases. But then we look at marketplaces like, for example, very early startups where the growth might have stalled at 20,000 a month. And then we come along and actually help them understand what this long tail strategy is about. And within 6 months, we've seen a 400 or 500% increase in traffic in some cases.
Now, if we're all living through this coronavirus crisis at the moment, how has that in general impacted your customers? And secondly, how have you been able to help them, through this crisis period?
Sure. I guess it was quite fortunate in that our message has always been, look, you can't build and sustain a marketplace on paid traffic alone. Now, the coronavirus came around, which had everyone basically scrutinizing any money that went out the door. So first of all, they essentially cut paid acquisition channels, reduced AdWords spends, reduced social spends. We've seen a lot of people take ad fraud more seriously. So we've started helping them implement ad fraud detection platforms, which, in some cases on AdWords have detected 20 to 25% of their ad spend actually being wasted by ad fraud. And then
So
what we've
what
looked at
is
is
ad
gone,
fraud? What is ad fraud?
sorry, when I refer to ad fraud, it's essentially networks of bots that might be clicking your ads, competitors clicking your ads, and unusual behavior that isn't natural of a visitor.
Okay.
Google does a great way, for example, of detecting that themselves, and they allow a marginal 2% on your invoice to detect that. But we haven't seen anything under 15% so far.
Okay.
So the
So
question
you're
then becomes,
saving wastage of ad paid traffic.
correct. So that's the first conversation we have is, well, let's reduce your spend because you can't afford to outlay this AdWords cost, for example. Can we do that with reducing that 15 to 20% in ad fraud? Now that we've got some extra budget to play with, how can we help improve the product? Because as the survey that you did, none of the classifieds were actually stopping product development or investing in the technology. But now they've really gone and looked at, okay, this coronavirus has come around. This has actually taken a hit because we can't spend all this money on paid search. We now need to look at organic ways to do it. Whereas previously it was the other way around. It's, well, we're getting our leads from paid search, so we'll slowly build our organic search. So for us, fortunately, the conversation has now changed where we're able to push the organic side a lot more.
Okay. And now the customers you're currently working with, are they doing anything differently than they were from the pre-coronavirus crisis days?
Not so much differently. I think from the top down, the conversation has changed a lot now. Whereas, they're looking at more sustainable ways of attracting the user. We've all seen the stats of the REAs and the Rightmoves and the Zooplas increasing traffic and having a lot more inquiries. And that obviously is driven by the coronavirus in part, but also a strong organic strategy would make sure that those competitors are always found in the search results without having to rely on paid traffic.
Now, if you were a well-operating portal or a marketplace across whether it's real estate or cars or employment or whatever, of your total traffic mix, organic traffic should be about what percent?
Look, we see that for the developed markets, it can range anywhere between 30 to sort of 40%. But we always want to make sure that the first thing that we look at is how risk averse is a portal's traffic profile. So for example, we looked at Mexico, where aside from the horizontals, the verticals were actually very reliant on organic search. In some cases, 80, 90% of their search traffic was actually organic search. So in that particular case, we need to have a conversation about, well, it's great and we want to increase your SEO traffic. But by increasing your reliance on organic traffic, you're also increasing your risk profile. So we want to make sure that we actually have that conversation up front, because it's not just about Google. Google has announced another algorithm updates in 6 months, which is going to incorporate user experience. So we're constantly chasing Google's tail.
Okay, yeah, because they continue to change the algorithms and they continue to change how they score your site as being a credible source of information. And you may or may not get a bump up in your traffic. You may get a push down in your traffic, which I've experienced in a number of sites, both ways. You get to see this, and you literally wake up one morning and you wonder what has happened, because you just don't know. And then now you're trying to unlock the black box that is Google.
Yeah, and there's some very awkward conversations.
I can imagine. Now, for you, what would be the top 2 or 3 tips that you would give to someone when they're thinking about SEO and how to really improve their site? So there's sort of 2 or 3 things that they should start thinking about. And clearly one of them is probably get in touch with you, but what else should they be thinking about?
The number one thing I really want to push, especially in real estate and automotive, which other marketplaces have started grasping, is understand the user and understand what a user expects to see when they're searching for a particular thing. If I'm looking for a 2-bedroom apartment in Bangkok, show me the information that's relevant to me. anticipate what information the user I might need from you, and display that in a way that it doesn't look awful, right? The user experience is becoming more and more important. So it's no longer about 10 listings and then 10 scrolls of content, right? It's how do you make the content that you're already producing more relevant for the user and anticipate the information that they might need to make a decision.